Hmm. 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 Oh, forgive me. I was absorbed in thought.
Pain, purpose, and perseverance. Pain is a guaranteed part of life, and all human life begins with pain. Purpose is never guaranteed, as purpose must come from our beliefs. Each person will experience different pain and experience that pain in different ways. Purpose can come from limitless internal and external sources, but again, is never guaranteed. However, there is a uniform experience that all people have. We all face adversity. We all face pain. So how can we make the choice to carry on in the face of guaranteed pain and wavering purpose? Chapter 1: The Pain of Identity. A few years ago, I was introduced to someone at the gym, and she introduced herself very politely, but she she was a very outspoken person. So she came up to me, introduced herself, I introduced myself, and she said, yes, I'm a person with albinism. And it took me back for a second, because I, one, didn't think she was going to bring that up, even though I could see that she was. And two, I hadn't thought of it that way, because I would have made the mistake of calling her an albino, which I now know is not only offensive, but we'll talk about why that's something you don't want to call someone in any case. Maybe a couple weeks later, a new person came into the gym, and this person came up to this woman, and they were talking, and I was off to the side doing my workout, and he said, very politely again, he said, "What's it like living as an albino?" Or something to that effect. And she said, "I'm not." And he was very embarrassed, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I just," kind of stumbling over his words. And she said, "I'm a person with albinism. I'm not an albino. That's not who I am." I have another friend I've known since I was a small kid who has cerebral palsy. He will have cerebral palsy from the moment he was born, before he was born really, until the day he dies. But that is not his identity. It is not who he is. It is simply something that he has to deal with. I bring this up because these people have this pain in their lives, and their ability to find purpose and persevere has to do with their identity. Now, the reason I was thinking of those stories specifically is that the other day, someone asked me how I was doing. And quite frankly, I'm not doing great. I've been experiencing anxiety, panic attacks, agoraphobia, which means that I'm having a difficult time leaving the house, which is very frustrating. Not only personally, just because everyone needs to live their life, but because I'm a father, I have responsibilities to my son, my family, my friends. I coach baseball, a lot of things. So when this person asked me how I was doing, and I was about to say, oh, I have anxiety, I was going to get into it, I thought to myself, no, I don't have anxiety. I'm experiencing anxiety right now. Now, I want to be clear. My anxiety is not a genetic condition or something I was born with, at least not in the same way as my two friends I just described. Sure, I may have a higher predisposition to experience anxiety, and it's absolutely a very real physical thing, in addition to the psychological, but I want to be clear that it is different. My two friends, one who has albinism, and one has cerebral palsy, those are distinctly different. I just want to be very clear about that. So I remember this story because I learned a big lesson from my friend when she said to that stranger, "No, I'm not an albino." And that is the importance of separating circumstance from identity. So when I'm thinking about myself right now and what I'm going through, are my problems real? Yes. Are they painful? Extremely. Is that who I am? No. This is something that I'm experiencing. So these are three very different types of pain. There's the social stigma and difficulties of being labeled as an albino, the being different, other than, being singled out, and not in a good way. There's the physical and mental toll of cerebral palsy, a genetic disorder that prevents my friend from doing certain things that he loves, and is also something he must physically work at every single day of his life, not just to do things, but just to remain healthy. And he knows that his life will almost certainly be shortened by his condition. And then there's me. I have a different type of issue that seems difficult to grasp. It's difficult to explain to people. It can be described as anxiety and agoraphobia, but the real issue is that I can't trust my own thoughts. I can't be honest with myself. The fear of fear itself can feel so real that I forget any semblance of rationality I know. And those rational thoughts I have within me sometimes don't win the battle against everything else that can feel like a threat to my safety, even though I know it's not. There is no shortage of ways that humans have managed to suffer through this life, yet we continue to persevere and hopefully even enjoy it. Chapter 2: Finding Purpose. It can be a tempting thought to assume that people have strong, well-defined purposes that help them get through life. You may have watched a documentary or read a book on Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or another bald basketball player where they talk about their maniacal purpose that drove their elite work ethics. Now that sounds nice, and it sounds really great when you're reading it at a book at night and you think you might get up at 4 a.m. the next morning to go, jog or whatever, but that's not going to work for most people. Most of us would prefer a warm bed to the Mamba mentality. Most of us still struggle with purpose. Another unfortunate reality is that the crystal clear doctrines of the past have skipped many of us. If you are watching this and have made it this far, the odds are extremely high that 1, you aren't a complete moron, love you, and 2, aren't indoctrinated into any ideology that would define your morals and beliefs for you. It can also be tempting to assume that people of faith feel entirely content and understand their purpose and direction in life. This simply isn't true for most, at least not people who aren't morons, as I previously mentioned. Faith and complete certainty are not the same thing. People may believe in their religion, but still struggle with purpose in their lives. It's very easy to look at other people and say, they've got it figured out for themselves, they're not struggling the same way I am, just because they're XYZ. This often is not the case. So what can we do? Do we look to Stoic philosophy and say, this is my duty as a person to get my ass out of bed in the morning and perform my purpose? Do we go a more selfish route and say, I'm a nihilist now, nothing matters, I'm going to do me, and I'm going to become a late-stage capitalist pig? No offense. Do we try to lose ourselves in our family, our career, or in our community? The fact of the matter is, it doesn't truly matter, so long as you find a purpose that makes sense to you. Without purpose, it is extremely difficult to bridge the gap between pain and perseverance. Chapter 3. What Dark Souls teaches us about overcoming. There are several big ideas in the Dark Souls series, one of which being that cycles repeat, that individual action doesn't matter. In a contradictory sense, one of the other themes is the importance of the individual, as the chosen undead, as the last monarch, as the Ashen One. You don't have an inherent claim. You don't have inherent purpose when you are brought into the game. We are a small part of the world. The name Chosen One, the names, the titles are almost ironic because there have been other Chosen Ones. There have been other Ashen Ones. There have been other quote-unquote last monarchs. People are lying to us about how important we are. And while the main characters from these games do achieve great things, ultimately the world is not changed. That is made explicitly clear to us throughout the series, that even if change is apparent, even if it is noticeable, the cycle will repeat, dark will become light, light will become dark, everything will fade to gray. So when we think about overcoming pain in the Dark Souls universe, I want to focus on what our player character experiences. We are brought into this hostile world with really no purpose explicitly given to us. We learn purpose throughout our playtime. We learn about the world as we go. Specifically in Dark Souls 2, we are told we will do things without understanding or knowing why. The game is intentionally difficult. The lore is intentionally obtuse. We are not handed anything. The pain of dying in the game is the pain of failure in life. And the main message that I want to convey with all of this preamble and all of this nonsense is that dying in the game is failing an attempt, is a teaching moment. It is not a failure, it is just an attempt. In other words, there is no such thing as failure until you stop trying. Dying and losing your souls has no impact on your long-term success. Dying, getting pissed off, and stopping will ensure that you never make it. The other point I want to make is the pain of fear. It's interesting, I've gone through these kind of cycles in my own life before, where I have difficulty going out, difficulty driving, that kind of thing. And often in those times when I'm not able to do the things I typically do, I have to fill my time. And something I have consistently come back to, at least as an adult, since the game has come out, is Dark Souls, specifically Dark Souls 1. Now, people might find that a little bit hard to believe that I would find that comforting or relaxing when I'm already going through a period of stress and frustration. But I actually don't think that's a coincidence. Because, one, to state the obvious, when you've already played, you have gotten through that kind of initial pain point, just to get that out of the way. That's a real thing that happens. I no longer am being surprised by the game. I'm no longer being frustrated by learning the controls, that kind of thing. But beyond that more meta-analysis, to speak metaphorically again, it is about exposure. It is about the understanding that the attempts, that those so-called failed attempts mean nothing, and each time they mean even less. When I say that, I mean specifically the pain of failure is lessened. So when I go out and I drive a quarter mile instead of a tenth of a mile, but I wish I had driven a half a mile, that's not a failure, it's an attempt. And if I said, I didn't do it, I'm pissed, I'm scared, I'm frustrated, I'm never gonna try again, that would be failure. Everything between the point of attempting it the first time and success, everything in between that is just attempts. The only guaranteed result is failure if I stop. And it can be very difficult, even as a parent, even as someone, quite frankly, who is blessed to have people who care about him. It can be very difficult to find that purpose when your brain, everything in your body, everything in your brain is telling you, stay inside, don't do it, all of that. It is extremely difficult to just have the courage, because I know every time I go through this exposure therapy, there is pain. It's physically uncomfortable and mentally it's anguish. It's that knowledge that it will be painful that makes it difficult, but it's also the knowledge that I will not fail if I keep attempting it that makes it possible. And I'm not going to make this is ironic coming from me, I'm making a who knows how long video on this topic. I'm not going to make some grandiose statement like Dark Souls saved my life or some stupid shit like that. What I will say is that it does help. It helps me to understand how to approach a difficult situation that will take multiple attempts, multiple failed, I'm finger quoting, multiple failed attempts to ultimately succeed. And so the main point I'm trying to make in this video is that foreknowledge of pain can be overcome. Finding a purpose doesn't need to make sense to anyone other than you. And perseverance doesn't mean you do it every single day and you do everything you said you were going to every single time. It means you don't fucking stop. It means you go back even when it's going to be harder the next time. And you know it's going to be hard. And while I didn't need a video game to teach me that, I think it's a perfect metaphor, and I think it's a beautiful piece of art that teaches people how to overcome difficult situations and to overcome pain. And if you're going through a situation similar to what I'm going through right now, I'm going to say two things. One, there's no need to put pressure on yourself for any one goal. I do that to myself all the time. See the bigger picture, break it down into chunks, and keep trying. Every attempt is an attempt. 0 attempts are failures. When you stop making attempts, that's a failure. That's when you look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I need to do something. If you are continuing to try, if you're continuing sincerely to make attempts, keep going. And the second thing is, if you're at that point, sorry, it's hard for me to say. If you're at that point when it's very difficult, when you're at your lowest, I've been there. Quite frankly, I'm close to that right now. I promise now is not your time. Keep going. Don't do anything that the people around you will regret for the rest of their lives. And you know what I'm talking about. It is not your time. You will get better. If you keep making attempts, get through the pain. It's worth it. I promise.
Why not help one another on this lonely journey?
Goodbye then. Be safe, friend. Don't you dare go hollow.